Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class, and today we are going to discuss different aspects related to the introduction of soil fertility and productivity. Means we will define it, what are the different concepts associated with these terms, current status of soil in India, means what is the fertility status of soil in India, and then different fertility classes. Overall, the learning objective of this class are: number one, to discuss the various principles of soil fertility. Principles are the fundamental things, fundamental aspects related to soil fertility. We will discuss that, and the current status of soil fertility, and we will describe the difference in soil fertility and productivity. These two terms are often confused by the students. We will make the distinction between these two terms. Before that, let us see some terminology, because many times students find it difficult to answer the certain terms. For example, decomposition. It is conversion of complex organic materials into the simple forms, followed by release of nutrients through mineralization and formation of humus. Means under decomposition process, two actions happen together, that is hand in hand. One is mineralization, other is humification. Fertilizer. Now, what is fertilizer? The chemically synthesized products containing one, two or more plant nutrients in available or possibly available forms is called as a fertilizer. They are synthetic chemicals actually. Humification, the conversion, the carbon of organic amendments or organic manures is converted to the humic substances through the microbial activities. That process is called humification. Means it is simply formation of humus from the organic material is humification. Immobilization is the plant nutrient, particularly inorganic nitrogen, is converted to organic forms. Mostly it happens in case of nitrogen, where the available nitrogen or simple inorganic nitrogen is converted into organic forms and which is not available to the plants. Then mineralization, it is opposite of immobilization. In this case, organic materials decompose and release the nutrients. So, this process is called as mineralization, and it is largely mediated by soil organism, particularly microbes. Then nutrient cycling, the circulation of nutrient substances from their occurrence in the physical environment to their incorporation in the bodies of living organisms and their return to the physical environment back. This is called as nutrient cycling. Now, essential plant nutrients. Nutrients which are absolutely necessary for the normal growth and reproduction of higher plants are called as essential plant nutrients. Means in the absence of a particular nutrient element, the plant will not complete its life successfully, is called as essential plant nutrient. And there are about 17 essential plant nutrients that we will discuss in subsequent lectures. And then quadratic curve, a curve in which the output increases linearly up to a certain level of input and then it starts falling when input is increased further. This is called as quadratic curve or quadratic response, denoted by the equation y is equal to a plus bx plus cx square. Then soil aggregation, it is the binding of the primary soil particles which are sand, silt and clay together. Certain natural forces, root exudates and microbial activities help in binding the particles together. Soil fauna, certain species from the animal kingdom living in soil, for example, certain protozoa, nematodes, mites and earthworms, etc. These are called as soil fauna. They play a very important role, particularly in nutrient cycling and decomposition of organic matter in the soil. Now, let us see the main term, that is soil fertility. It is the overall ability of a soil to support the vigorous crop growth by ensuring adequate plant nutrients and suitable condition for water uptake, and by providing favorable condition for root growth and development. So, this is a very good definition given by Somani. It covers different aspects of soil fertility, means soil fertility is not just a status of nutrients in the soil. It also includes the conditions which increase or which improve the nutrient uptake from the soil, the water availability in the soil. If the soil is dry, it is not able to dissolve nutrients, then it will not be called fertile. So, in broader sense, it is soil fertility is the overall ability of a soil to support the vigorous growth by ensuring adequate plant nutrients and suitable conditions. This is important. Also, water uptake. Another definition is soil fertility is basically related to the status of available nutrients and its capacity to supply the nutrients from its reserves and by outside application. This is called as soil fertility. It comprises of many properties of soil, all of which influence the dynamics in nutrients and their availability of the plants. Particularly physical, chemical and biological properties of the soil influence the soil fertility. And overall, it is inherent capacity of the soil to supply plant nutrients in adequate and balanced amount. Remember, it is adequate and balanced amount, means there should not be any deficiency of a nutrient, and also the nutrients should be supplied in right proportion, in right balance, so that we get the vigorous plant growth. Then it becomes part of soil fertility. Now, many times students get confused that what is the difference between plant nutrition and soil fertility. So, soil fertility I just explained to you. Now, see what is plant nutrition. So, plant nutrition studies the effect of elements on plant growth and development, means what kind of roles are being played by different essential elements or nutrients in the plant's life. That is a part of plant nutrition. And it determines the forms and conditions of the availability and uptake, means what kind of forms are there in which plants take up the nutrient and how much these nutrients are available to the plant, and also how they gets assimilated in the plant system, how transport happens in the plant system, and how different nutrient elements interact at cellular level. So, such kind of studies are part of plant nutrition actually, means subject of plant nutrition starts from where the soil fertility ends. The job of soil fertility is to make the nutrients available, and job of plant nutrition becomes the uptake of nutrients and translocation and finally assimilation into different plant parts. That is your plant nutrition. So, how plants take up the nutrients and use them in their metabolism is called as plant nutrition. This is the simplest definition of plant nutrition. You may have come across another term which is mineral nutrition. Many times we say plant nutrition and we also call mineral nutrition. Let us see the difference between these two, plant nutrition and mineral nutrition. So, the study of absorption of inorganic mineral elements. Please underline it, inorganic mineral elements means it does not include carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, because these three elements are organic in nature, and their assimilation by plants is called mineral nutrition. Means plant nutrition minus carbon, hydrogen, oxygen nutrition becomes your mineral nutrition. Roots absorb mineral nutrients in the form of their salts dissolved in water. We are aware of it that nutrients are removed in the form of ions, cations as well as anions, and earth's crust which is made up of rocks, rocks, and rocks get weathered, weathering of rocks happens, and this creates some minerals in the soil, and then some organic matter is added to the minerals, and then they decompose again to produce inorganic minerals which are used by the plant. So, this subject becomes mineral nutrition where carbon, hydrogen, oxygen is excluded. Now, let us see what are different principles of soil fertility, means fundamental or basis of soil fertility. There are three important bases of soil fertility. One is law of the minimum, number two principle of synchrony, and number three is principle of nutrient cycling. So, let us start with the law of the minimum. Law of minimum was basically propounded by Justus von Liebig 1840. This Justus von Liebig is also considered as father of agricultural chemistry. In 1840, he propounded this law of minimum, which says that the plant yield is primarily dependent on the factor that is most in the minimum. Even if all the essential nutrients are adequately supplied, the growth may be limited by another factor, say water. Now, the water is adequately supplied, then growth may be limited by the next factor, which is deficient. Now, you see, this is the barrel. This is to explain the law of minimum. So, this is called as Liebig's barrel, and it was used by Dobenex. He used it, and you can see the staves. Staves are of different height. Some are short and some are longer. So, see, the quantity of water in the barrel will be decided by the stave which is shortest. That means, for example, you can take chain. The strength of the chain is governed by the weakest link. The weakest link will determine the strength of the chain. So, this is how in crop production what happens, you supply many nutrients, but one nutrient is missing or one nutrient is not present in adequate amounts. So, this nutrient will determine the effect of all the other nutrients. This is called as law of minimum. Now, you can see this picture. In this picture, if there is you see on x axis there is growth factor, maybe fertilizer, maybe irrigation, maybe any growth factor, and on y axis it is the plant response. So, you see, if there is no any limitation of any factor, then the response of plant growth will go linearly. You can see it will go linearly. But what happens in practical terms, there may be many factors which become limiting. For example, in some cases variety may become limiting and the yield will decrease or the growth will decrease, and you overcome this limitation, then pest may be limiting factor, and then so on, it goes on. So, you will never achieve 100% response. Now, next is principle of synchrony. The nutrient uptake pattern, if plotted with time, shows a parabolic or quadratic curve. I explained it in the beginning what is quadratic curve. So, in the beginning the nutrient uptake is slow, then increases at faster rate during the rapid growth phase, and finally increases at a decreasing rate, which is followed by a plateau. The nutrient supply should be synchronized with the demand as per the growth of the crop. This is the synchrony principle proposed by the ecologist Mike Swift. It is very, very important because we know that growth pattern is different. In the beginning it is slow, then at faster rate, and then again slows down. So, the nutrient requirement is more during the middle stage of the plant growth. So, at that period of time there should not be any shortage of the nutrients. Nutrients should be supplied as per the demand of the crop. It should be synchronized. The supply of the nutrients from the soil should be synchronized. So, fertility should be manipulated in such a way that it meets the demand of nutrient demand at different growth stages. That is the important part. The third principle of soil fertility: nutrients are lost by crop removal, erosion, and some other routes. There are number of routes by which the nutrients are lost from the soil. Crop take up nutrient in their straw, in their flowers, in their seeds, and so on. And erosion also causes removal of nutrients from the soil, and there are certain other routes like ammonia volatilization, ammonia fixation, or maybe leaching of nitrates can happen, by which the nutrients are lost from the soil. These nutrients are supplied through manures, crop residues, chemical fertilizer, or biofertilizer can be used to supply these nutrients or can be added into the soil. Certain quantities of the nutrients removed by the crops automatically remain in the soil by default. For example, litter fall. In certain crops like pigeon pea, the litter fall is there and the nutrients or organic material is returned back to the soil. So, nutrients removed from the soil are to be recycled back by different means to maintain the soil fertility. Means in any case, whatever we have removed from the soil in the form of crop harvest or as losses must be returned back to the soil. So, these are the three fundamental principles of soil fertility. Now, you can see in continuation to nutrient cycling, you can see what are the different inputs of nutrients through which soil gains the nutrient. Number one is organic manures. Variety of organic manures are used by farmers: farmyard manure, compost, vermicompost. Green manure is also kind of organic manure. So, these organic manures increase the nutrient content in the soil. Crop residues, certain crops residues are also used to supply the nutrient. For example, rice straw burning is a common problem in northern India. So, that rice straw can be recycled, can be brought into the soil to supply the nutrients. Residues of mustard, residues of palmate, residues of maize. There are many kind of residues which can be returned back to the soil to supply the nutrients. Other option could be chemical fertilizers, they are quite common and farmers are aware of these fertilizers. We have nitrogenous fertilizer, phosphatic, potassic fertilizer and also certain secondary nutrient fertilizers like sulfur, magnesium fertilizer and of course micronutrient fertilizers. So, these fertilizers are being frequently used by the farmers to supply the nutrients. Biological nitrogen fixation is another way to supply the nutrients. It includes your rhizobium symbiosis, Azolla anabina symbiosis and also there are certain free living bacteria in the soil that fixes nitrogen in the soil. So, it is also there and then certain nutrients may come from irrigation water. It also partly contains some amount of nutrients, particularly in some cases there may be sulfur in the water, irrigation water and atmospheric deposition in the form of acid rain or some other forms. This atmospheric deposition also bring down certain nutrients to the soil, maybe sulfur, maybe nitrogen. Then of course, besides inputs, there are certain outputs or losses of the nutrients from the soil. So, one is crop harvest, large amount of nutrients is lost through the crop harvest. One other is soil erosion, it takes away, the eroding soil takes away significant quantities of organic matter and nutrients from the soil and leaching and runoff is another mechanism of nutrient loss and there are certain gaseous losses like volatilization and denitrification. It happens mostly in case of nitrogenous fertilizer or nitrogen. And then weeds also remove a significant quantity of nutrients from the soil. So, overall you can compare that what kind of inputs and outputs are there so far nutrient cycling is concerned. So, overall what we need to do is create a balance between input and output. At least we should add the same quantity of nutrients that has been removed from the soil. Now, next aspect is soil fertility versus productivity. Are these two terms, are they different terms? Of course, soil fertility and productivity are different terms. The soil productivity is the crop yielding ability of a soil from a unit area of land. In other words, the potential of a given soil to produce crops or plants is referred as productivity. Productivity is simply yield per unit area and fertility is the nutrient status of the soil. So, these are the two major differences. One more definition of soil fertility restrict soil fertility to the nutrient status and soil productivity then refers to the soil factors that determine the capacity of to produce crops. Overall, what I mean to say here is that soil fertility means the status of nutrient and soil productivity means soil fertility plus external factors or management. How we are going to manage different crop production practices like irrigation, manuring, your manuring time, your weed control, insect pest and disease management, water management and so on. So, all these factors will affect the productivity. So, therefore, soil fertility is, when soil fertility is added to the management, it becomes your crop productivity or soil productivity. Now, relationship between soil fertility and productivity. Soil fertility is indispensable to a productive soil. A productive soil must be fertile soil. A fertile soil may not always be productive. This is interesting fact that a fertile soil may not always be productive one because certain factors like poor drainage, weeds, insect pests, disease, drought, waterlogging etc. can reduce the soil productivity although your fertility may be high. Soils having high productivity are always fertile. This is true. Highly fertile and highly productive soils are not very common in nature or in agro ecosystems. Now, let us see certain characteristic features of the highly productive and highly fertile soils. Means the best kind of soils, what should be the features, what should be the characteristics. Number one, such soils should be capable of mobilizing nutrient from the soil reserves. large amount of nutrients is fixed in the soil, we got nutrient reserves in mineral as well as in humus. So, how a soil can extract or make the nutrients available from these reserves to the plant? If a soil is doing this job well, then it is of course fertile soil. The next is that immobilization and chemical fixation is least, is minimum, means the immobilization action is not there or very little there, so that nutrient availability is more. Similarly, chemical fixation will reduce the nutrient availability. Therefore, if we have least chemical fixation, means our nutrient availability will be more. Number 3, organic and fertilizer nutrients are easily transformed into their quickly available form. A soil should be able to convert organic and fertilizer nutrients into available form quickly and easily, so that the requirement of the plants is met in time. Minimum losses of nutrients via erosion, leaching, volatilization or other mechanism, means the losses of nutrients should not be high. A soil should allow the least losses of nutrients, then it will be highly productive and highly fertile soil. It should be capable of storing the water soluble nutrients in easily available form, means the nutrient storage capacity of the soil should be high, then it will be a fertile and productive soil. Next feature is supplies the crops a balanced and continuous nutrition as per requirement of the crop. This is very important, means principle of law of minimum as well as principle of synchrony applies here, means supplies the crops a balanced and continuous nutrition as per requirement or need of the crop, and it fit to store and supply the adequate quantity of water to the crops, because without water nutrient availability and uptake will be adversely affected. So, soil should be able to store sufficient quantity of water and should be able to supply it to the plants. Maintains the acceptable soil aeration or oxygen requirement of the roots. Many times soils are submerged with water. So, under those conditions nutrient availability is affected. So, there should be right supply of oxygen or aeration in the soil. Enhances the nutrient use efficiency by the crops. A soil should have high nutrient use efficiency for individual crop. Able to supply the plant nutrients throughout the growing season of the crop. Does not contain excessive toxic material and heavy metals. Actually, these excessive toxic material will affect the soil biology or microbiology of the soil is affected, and because of which the nutrient cycling is getting affected, and finally, the nutrient availability is slowed down. So, therefore, such toxic materials, polythene or some pesticide should not reach the soil. Supports the activity of useful flora and fauna. A productive and fertile soil should support high quantity of flora and fauna in the soil. Now, let us see the difference in soil fertility and productivity, how these two are different. Number 1, status of essential plant nutrients available for plant in adequate and balanced amount. This is soil fertility. Soil productivity, crop yielding ability of soil or capacity of soil to produce crop. Yield means yield may be in tons per hectare, etc. Number 2, in soil fertility, it is actually combination of soil properties and an aspect of soil plant relationship. However, soil productivity considers the monetary value of the produce, not a property of the soil, means soil productivity is not at all a property of the soil. In soil fertility, quite vital to productive soil, a fertile soil may not be productive always. This is very interesting fact. Then a productive soil needs to be adequately fertile, means a productive soil should be fertile. Then soil fertility, it is improved by the decomposition of organic matter, releasing the nutrients. However, productivity improvement, organic matter helps in enhancing the productivity of soils by boosting the physical properties of the soil. This is very important point, that organic matter helps in the improvement of physical properties of the soil. Then soil fertility is influenced by chemical, physical and biological properties of the soil, and soil productivity is influenced by the soil fertility, climatic conditions and crop management as well as soil management. All these practices affect the soil productivity. Now, let us see the current status of soil fertility in India, how better Indian soils are doing in fertility. So, it is not a good sign that our soils are deficient in most of the nutrients in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. See, for example, 57% districts in India have low nitrogen, means that is below 280 kg nitrogen per hectare available nitrogen. 36% districts in India are medium in nitrogen and only 7% districts in India are high in available nitrogen. So, it is quite disappointing to see. And then 51% districts in India had low phosphorus, 40% have medium phosphorus and 9% have high phosphorus. So far potash is concerned, 9% districts had low, 42% districts have medium and 49% districts have high level of available potassium in soils. That means, if the soil is low in nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium, under such cases application or external application of nutrients become very essential. It is a must. Or if a soil is medium in nutrients, medium in nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium, then the application of nutrient may or may not be necessary. It will depend upon the nutrients reserves in the soil as well as nutrient supplying capacity of the soil. But generally speaking, the soils which are having high levels of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium does not require any external application of the nutrients. Now, coming to the micronutrients, it is very interesting that most of the Indian soils are deficient in zinc. Roughly 44% soils in India are deficient in zinc, 33% soils are deficient in boron, 8% in copper, 15% in iron, 6% in manganese and 13% soils are deficient in molybdenum. So, it is quite interesting. For example, roughly 44% soils are deficient in zinc. That means, plants which are growing in these soils must contain the lower level of zinc, and people who are eating these kind of zinc deficient food items will have low levels of zinc. So, ultimately large human population suffers from the zinc deficiency in India or in many developing countries. So, this is serious issue, means we should feed the soil with the zinc, so that our food becomes become rich in zinc, and then human population will overcome zinc deficiency. Now, to add to it, that organic matter is also important in the maintenance of soil fertility. If a soil has poor or low levels of organic matter, it cannot be a sign of a fertile soil. So, organic matter is very important in soil fertility. So, long term experiment in rice wheat cropping system have suggested that soil organic carbon in 0 to 15 centimeter soil depth has declined over time despite adequate NPK fertilization. So, this is important, means you supply the inorganic nutrients, but your carbon is not going to increase. That means, you need to apply organic manures or crop residues to supply organic carbon to the soil. Again, in rice wheat cropping system belts, soil organic carbon declined from 0.5% in 1960s to 0.2%, just 0.2%. It is again a serious matter in soil fertility. The decreased level of plant nutrients and soil organic matter or soil organic carbon a serious threat to sustainable food production. That is why people started concept of conservation agriculture, organic farming and so on, so that organic matter is retained in the soil as much as possible. Urgent need to understand the causes for this decline in soil fertility to find efficient strategies to restore it. Now, let us see what are different soil fertility classes. So, soil fertility classes have been divided into three components. Number one is biological soil fertility, number two chemical soil fertility, number three physical soil fertility. Biological soil fertility is the capacity of organism living in soil to contribute to the nutritional requirements of plants and foraging animals for productivity, reproduction and quality, while maintaining biological processes that contribute positively to the physical and chemical state of the soil. So, of course, bit lengthy definition, but its meaning is that contribution of biological properties of the soil towards meeting out the nutrient requirement of the crops is considered as biological soil fertility. Similarly, chemical soil fertility is the capacity of soil to provide a suitable chemical and nutritional environment for the plants and foraging animals for productivity, reproduction and quality in a way that supports beneficial soil physical and biological processes, including those involved in nutrient cycling. So, this chemical soil fertility means the contribution of different chemical properties of the soil towards meeting out the nutrient requirement of different crops is chemical soil fertility. For example, soil pH. If you make a change in soil pH, the nutrient availability changes. We know that phosphorus availability is maximum between 6.5 to 7.5 pH. If soil pH is 8.5 or more, if we reduce the soil pH, it will increase the nutrient availability. That means, by manipulating, by changing or by managing chemical property of the soil, we can increase nutrient availability in the soil. So, this chemical property of the soil is very, very important. Physical soil fertility, the capacity of soil to provide physical conditions that support plant productivity, reproduction and quality without leading to loss of soil structure or erosion, and supporting soil biological and chemical processes. It is again physical soil fertility means there are different soil properties like soil texture, soil structure, water holding capacity, etc. So, how much these properties are contributing directly or indirectly in meeting out the requirement of the nutrients for a particular crop, that is called as physical soil fertility. So, this is important that we should know the three different classes of soil fertility, which are biological, chemical and physical soil fertility. And it is also interesting that all these three kind of fertility are interlinked, they are related to each other. Improvement in one will lead to improvement in other. For example, organic matter, if we add organic matter into the soil, it improves the physical properties of the soil. It also improves nutrient availability, means the chemical property of the soil is improved, and it also increases the number of organism, microbes in the soil. Then it is improving the biological properties. So, many times these properties are interrelated, also influenced by a particular management factor. Now, see influence of management practices on soil biological process and changes to soil fertility. Now, you see there are 4 columns. First column has management option, number 2 is soil biological process influence, number 3 is changes to soil chemical fertility, and number 4 is change to soil physical fertility. So, how these different processes are related to each other? Let us see organic matter addition. We know organic matter is added to the soil through organic manures or through green manures or through crop residues. There are different sources for adding organic matter to the soil. So, what this organic matter is doing to the biological properties, it increases the microbial population, and this microbial population is very, very important for enhancing the root growth by way of releasing certain compounds or hormones into the soil. And they also decompose the organic matter, these microbes, and they also do the job of killing the harmful organism. Antibiosis process happens in the soil. So, these microbial population is very, very important, which is enhanced by the addition of organic matter in the soil. And then temporarily there may be immobilization of nitrate due to high CN ratio, because when we add organic matter into the soil, it is having very high CN ratio. CN ratio is ratio of carbon to the nitrogen. So, this ratio may be very high, in particularly in cereal residues. When such residues are added into the soil, the CN ratio of the soil increases further, and then they take up the nitrogen also. Some mineral nitrogen or available nitrogen is taken up by microbes, and which is getting immobilized. So, temporarily there may be immobilization of nitrogen due to addition of organic matter in soil. What happens to the changes to chemical properties of the soil when organic matter is added to the soil? It increases the availability of nutrients, because decomposition of organic matter results in release of many nutrients. It contains proteins, and proteins contain your nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus. And also there are certain other elements like potassium is there in the plant material, phosphorus is there. So, many elements, nutrients are released into the soil due to addition of organic matter when it decomposes. Then increase cation exchange capacity. The cation exchange capacity is very, very important. It is the ability of the soil to hold cations, means 1 kg soil, how much cations can be adsorbed or can be held by 1 kg soil. So, it is in centimos, this cation exchange capacity. So, this cation exchange capacity increases because of addition of organic matter in the soil. It also produces humus, and this humus is colloidal in nature. It attracts many kind of ions and it holds cations as well as anions. Therefore, the cation exchange capacity of the soil is increased due to addition of organic matter in the soil. And also further there may be decrease in the CN ratio. With the passage of the time, the CN ratio will decline further and will go down from the original level. So, this is very useful property. Now, change to soil physical property. What this organic matter addition is going to do with the physical properties of the soil? So, it is going to improve the soil structure through aggregation and water holding capacity of the soil. So, overall addition of organic matter is quite useful in enhancing biological activity in soil, improving chemical properties of the soil and also certain physical properties of the soil. Number 2, crop rotations. Crop rotations are very, very important and they have very significant role in improvement of soil fertility. Particularly when we include leguminous crops in the rotations, they are quite useful. And similarly, the rotation of crops themselves is also useful, is also required. So, what this crop rotation is going to do with the soil biological properties? So, it is variety of root exudates support diverse microbial population, because we are having diverse crops, diverse plant. So, different kind of plant will produce different varieties of root exudates, and these different varieties of root exudates will attract the large number of varieties of microbes, means like we also like different taste. So, also is the case of soil microbes. They also want their taste change of their taste. So, to change the taste of microbes in soil, we should change the crops, so that each and every individual crop will release different variety of root exudates into the soil. So, this helps in the multiplication of microbes in the soil and it increases their diversity. This is important. And then what kind of changes in soil chemical fertility due to crop rotation is decreased CN ratio, because most of the times in crop rotations we include leguminous crops and these legume crops add nitrogen to the soil, therefore, the CN ratio is decreased. And in case of physical fertility, increased localized heterogeneity of the soil happens, because this rhizospheric area is very small. So, only in those kind of areas or those kind of soil fractions you will see more changes than bulk of the soil. Then next management option is tillage. Tillage is, as most of you know, what is tillage? It is the physical manipulation of the soil for the preparation of bed, for hoeing, for cultural operation we go for tillage, or in simpler word it is just plowing of the land. So, now the conventional tillage is creating certain issues in farming. For example, due to conventional tillage, means more tillage, soil erosion is happening, more soil erosion happens and there are some other issues also. So, people are switching over to the minimum tillage or zero tillage. So, let us see what is the advantage of minimum tillage or zero tillage with respect to soil physical, chemical and biological processes. So, in case of soil biological process, increase faunal and floral abundance, diversity and biomass in the surface. So, zero tillage or minimum tillage results in the increase in the biodiversity in the soil. So, this is a positive sign. Then chemical changes, initially nutrient immobilization and finally increase the nutrient release. So, overall minimum tillage also conserves the nutrients because of the lower rates of soil erosion. If we adopt this conservation tillage, minimum tillage or zero tillage, then soil losses are least. So, therefore, nutrient losses or carbon losses are least from the conservation agriculture, from the this conservation tillage. Changes in soil physical fertility, improved soil structure through aggregation and water holding capacity. So, overall this zero tillage has several advantages, particularly with the maintenance of soil fertility. Next is controlled traffic. Controlled traffic means in the fields or in the soil, we go for plowing and different operations. Now, farmers are using heavy machinery like tractors or combines or variety of new implements have come up, and because of these implements the soil is getting hard, becoming hard and compressed. So, because of that the root entry is affected, root growth is restricted. So, in this case the controlled traffic results in better root and microbial growth. Controlled traffic here means the reduced traffic in the soil. It will help better root growth and microbial growth. It will increase the availability of nutrients, particularly increased availability of oxygen is there, which help in the better decomposition of organic matter, and also it gives it is useful for roots respiration, this oxygen. Then increased total porosity, aeration and water infiltration. So, there are improvement in soil physical properties by the controlled traffic. Otherwise, if we have too much or heavy traffic is there, it will create hard pan in the soil, and because of that hard pan the root growth will be restricted. Then fertilizer management options. High phosphatic fertilizer use reduces mycorrhizal colonization. Similarly, high nitrogen fertilizer application inhibits the nitrogen fixation. If we want more biological activity in the soil, then we should make the lower use of chemical fertilizer, or at least the balanced use of chemical fertilizer should be done. Then decreased availability of nutrients derived from soil biological processes. Changes in soil pH. Because of fertilizer, sometimes there may be changes in soil pH. For example, continuous use of ammonical or ammonia based fertilizer will result in acidic kind of environment in the soil, and sodium containing fertilizer will result in the basicity of the soil. No appreciable effect on soil texture. Actually, fertilizers directly do not have direct or significant influence on the soil texture. Now, let us see what are different agronomic practices and how soil fertility is important. Soil fertility is important for sustainable agriculture. So, certain agronomic practices are important. For example, organic matter addition is very crucial. Just now we have seen the role of organic matter addition in soil fertility improvement. Similarly, crop rotations. Crop rotations is the growing of different crops in succession in the same field is crop rotation. Tillage also influences the soil fertility, controlled traffic, fertilizer, and number of factors will affect the soil fertility. And overall you can see there is triangle, chemical, physical and biological properties are interrelated, and these chemical property or physical property will affect the biological properties, and these biological properties include living plant roots, bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes, other organisms, means the living section of the soil, and it is resulting in the enhanced rhizospheric activities. Then agronomic or cultural practices will influence the rhizospheric activity, and then finally it will result in the improved soil fertility, productivity, and finally the sustainable agriculture. Let us see some factors that affect the soil fertility. They are also called as components of soil fertility. Friends, there are number of components which affect the soil fertility. They are soil depth, soil structure, soil texture, soil aeration, soil color, soil temperature, activity of soil organisms, content of toxic substances, content of nutrients, cation exchange capacity, organic matter, soil pH, leaching, etc. So, these are the important factors which affect the fertility. Or sometimes you may be asked, what are the components of soil fertility. Then you can explain these points. So, I will touch upon some of the points, not all. Some important points I would like to discuss now. Let us see soil depth. Soil depth is an important component of soil fertility. It is the depth to which plant roots can penetrate the soil. It decides the volume of soil accessible to the root system of the crops. Shallower soils are generally less fertile as compared to the deeper soils. Soil depth affects root growth, available water and nutrients etc. Therefore, the soils which are having shallower depth are generally poor in fertility and deeper soils are generally rich in fertility. Now, soil structure is the arrangement of soil particles into different aggregates. There are different kind of soil structure available. You can study from a graduate book, and a good structured soil will have soil particles joined together to make the stable aggregates. Stable aggregates make the framework for soil spaces that allow easy movement of air, water and plant roots. They also make available the spaces for soil organisms. Overall, this soil structure plays important role in soil fertility. Therefore, it is very significant component because it affects water relations, nutrient availability, root growth and so on. Next component is soil texture. It is also important component of soil fertility. It is relative proportion of different particle sizes, sand, silt and clay fractions in the soil, and soil texture influences quantity of stored nutrients, soil aeration, pore space, distribution, drainage characteristics and water holding capacity. Overall, if your soils are coarse texture soils are generally poor in fertility and fine texture soils are generally rich in fertility. Now, you can see different significance of soil texture on fertility. Property, light soil and heavy soil. Just comparison of two kind of soils. Number one is infiltration rate. Infiltration rate is high in light soils and heavy in heavy soil it is low. Permeability is high, low. Plant available water is low in light soil and in heavy soil it is high. Runoff is naturally low in light soil because of more leaching, and in heavy soil less leaching is there, therefore high runoff losses are there. Mechanical resistance is easy in light soil, means plowing is quite easy in light soil and it is difficult in heavy soil. Root penetration is easy in light soil and difficult in heavy soil. Erosion is high in light soil and low in heavy soils. Transport of water is short distances, here long distance. So, these are the important changes or important differences in light soil and heavy soil so far influenced by the texture. Now, see the soil aeration. Soil aeration is very important. It is necessary for the decomposition of organic matter, nutrient availability, microbial activity, root growth and nutrient and water uptake by the plant roots. Oxygen is absolutely necessary for the respiration of plant roots. Poor soil aeration can result in reduced root growth or sometimes death of the plants in many cases. Therefore, soil aeration is quite important. Then leaching, the leaching of nutrients reduces soil fertility. Sandy soils in areas of high rainfall leach more nutrients. So, overall what I mean to say here is that leaching causes reduction in soil fertility, and if we can stop the leaching or if we can reduce the leaching we can improve the soil fertility. Similarly, content of nutrients can be important factor that affects soil fertility. Cation exchange capacity is very important. If you increase the cation exchange capacity by adding organic matter or by changing the structure of the soil, then you can increase the fertility of the soil. Or also it is influenced by kind of clay which are available in the soil. Mount Morillonite clay has high cation exchange capacity value than the kaolinite due to the greater negative charges. So, you can see the next picture here, that in this picture you can see the cation exchange capacity of different minerals compared to humus. Humus has 150 to 400 milliequivalents or centimoles of the cation exchange capacity. However, vermiculite has 100 to 250 and chlorite has 0 to 50 and so on. Kaolinite is having the least cation exchange capacity. Humus acts as a colloidal material and it increases cation exchange capacity. Therefore, the fertility of soil is high if we have more organic matter in the soil. Soil pH. Soil pH is very important. pH is an invaluable indicator of soil fertility. It influences many chemical processes and thus nutrient availability. You can see this picture. For example, nitrogen. Nitrogen availability is generally higher from pH 5.5 to 8, and phosphorus availability is increasing from 6 to 7.5, and after 7.5 it is decreasing. Potassium availability is increasing from 6 pH and it is almost constant up to 7.5 and then decreases. Sulfur availability is slightly lower under acidic condition and it is almost same from pH 6 to 10. So, you can see one by one. Next is calcium and magnesium. These are more available under alkaline condition. Iron is more available under acidic condition. Manganese under acidic condition. Boron again under acidic conditions. And copper and zinc availability is high from pH 5 to 7. And then contrast to iron, zinc or copper, molybdenum availability is more in alkaline pH, that is from 7 to 10 molybdenum pH availability. So, therefore, we need to correct the soil pH if we want to increase the availability of the nutrients. Content of detrimental or toxic substances. Many times certain toxic materials like heavy metals, pesticides can reach our soils, even polythene can reach our soils. So, they are going to deteriorate the soil fertility. The toxic material can adversely affect the biological activity. The reduced biological activity, growth of microbes in soil may eventually reduce the availability of nutrients in soil. Quantity and activity of soil organism, yet another important component of soil fertility. The reduced population of such useful organism indicates the poor fertility of soil. In olden days, farmers used to say that earthworms are the indicator of soil fertility. Means if in your soil your earthworms are more, means your soil is fertile. This was general feeling of the farmers. But today, if you go to even to a paddy field, rice field, you will not find many earthworms in those soils. What has happened to earthworms in our soil? Because of use of toxic material, fertilizer, pesticide and variety of such materials, the earthworm population has gone down. So is the case of other organisms. There are also poor biological activity in many soils. In general, higher the population of useful organism in soil, higher is the fertility of the soil. The reduced activity and growth of useful organism indicate the poor fertility of the soil. Now, question comes, we have seen different components of the soil fertility or factor affecting fertility. Now, how to restore it? The restoration of soil fertility is very important. Identify the problems related to soil fertility. The first job of the farmer or as an agricultural student or as a soil fertility student, your job will be to identify the problem related to soil fertility. Means, is it due to biological properties, chemical properties or physical property? Is it soil erosion? Is it volatilization? Is it leaching losses more? Or what kind of soil fertility problem is there? So, you need to identify that problem, and according to that problem you need to suggest the corrective measures or follow the corrective measures. For example, if your soil is acidic, so you can suggest the farmers that you go for lime application. Lime application can rectify, can ameliorate the acidic soil. Similarly, if your soil is alkaline or alkali soil is there and it is having very high pH, so in that case one can suggest application of sulfur fertilizer. Sulfur can be used to reduce the pH of these soils, or some other amendments like gypsum. Gypsum can be used which can correct the soil pH. So, identification of the right soil fertility problem is very important. Next is plant or soil testing. These are the options. Suppose certain symptoms are shown by the plants, particularly deficiency or toxicity symptoms are shown by the plants. The charts are available. We can see that which nutrient this deficiency or toxicity can be ascribed. So, we need to find out, and then according to that we can go for corrective measures. So, for this we can do rapid tissue analysis or quantitative analysis of the plant. We can know the critical concentration of the nutrient, and according to that we can take the corrective measures. Similarly, soil testing is another aspect by which we can identify the problem. What exactly is causing deterioration in soil fertility? Is it the change in pH? Is it the change in carbon? Is it the change in micronutrients, macronutrients, like that? So, we can go for soil testing. Right method of soil sampling can be used and it can be tested in soil. The nutrients are extracted and then the analysis is performed and we get the result, and then interpretation of these results is important. Based upon the interpretation, we can find out the soil fertility problem, whether a particular nutrient is having low status, medium status or high status. According to that, we can take the corrective measures. Balanced fertilization and integrated nutrient management. Balanced fertilization is the key for successful crop production and successful soil fertility management. Balanced nutrition, as I already explained to you with the help of law of minimum proposed by Liebig, that all the nutrients which are essential for the plant growth should be present in right proportion and right quantity. Although it is very difficult to achieve, but we can try to make the balanced fertilization or balanced nutrition of the crop. And it is necessary also, because sometimes, for example, if you have your food item on your plate, you have rice, you have dal, you have chawal, or you have salad, everything is there. But you forgo, somebody forgot to add the salt. If there is not salt in your food, in any food item, you will not eat that food. But if you put a little salt in that item, food item, you will eat all the food. Similarly, in case of plants, you may have lot of foods for the plant, but one kind of food or one particular constituent of the food is missing in the soil. Then that will affect the use of other kind of food. Similarly, for example, in soil you have sufficient level of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and most of the micronutrients, but in soil your zinc is missing. Zinc is missing means your macronutrients or other nutrients will not give better results in the absence of zinc. So, you need to apply quantity of the zinc. Once you have corrected the deficiency of the zinc, the growth will improve, and then after that the another nutrient may become limiting. So, overall we need to understand the concept of balanced fertilization, and particularly in case of micronutrients, because many times in the standing crop or standing plants you may get deficiency of certain nutrients, particularly micronutrient. Then foliar application of nutrients is a good option to have balanced fertilization. Then next is integrated nutrient management. Integrated nutrient management is a concept where we combine all the available sources of nutrient like organic manures, biofertilizer, crop rotation and fertilizer. Make the best combination of all these sources so that the environment remains safe, farmers get maximum benefits or economic returns, and also it is environment friendly as well as soil health, means the health of the environment, health of the soil, and also health of the people is improved if we follow integrated nutrient management. So, overall we have seen that what is soil fertility and how soil fertility is different from productivity. What are the different principles of soil fertility management? Principles were law of minimum, law of synchrony, and law of nutrient cycling or principle of nutrient cycling. Similarly, we discussed different components of soil fertility like soil depth, soil texture, structure and so on. And finally, we have seen that what are the problems related to soil fertility and how we can restore the soil fertility. Soil fertility can be restored by identifying the problem. First we need to identify the correct problem and then go for soil or plant testing, and finally balanced nutrition and integrated management is the best strategy. Hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much.